So Dawntrail is right around the corner, only a little over 2 months until it's finally going to be in our hands, releasing on July 2nd, early access June 28th. You know, at this moment, I'd say I feel like a kid waiting for Christmas in October. So in this video, let's take a look at 10 reasons, in no particular order, to be hyped for Dawntrail, starting with number 10, new jobs. So starting with a big one here, new jobs are always very hype, and Dawntrail is coming with 3. First, there's the physical DPS Viper, a quick-footed dual-wielder of swords who punishes enemies with a flurry of attacks. Vipers can also combine their swords into a double-edged saber staff, much like how Darth Maul does in Star Wars. And then there's the Pictomancer, a job first seen in Final Fantasy VI. They are a magical DPS that wields a paintbrush to cast spells that kind of look like living paintings. So yeah, I think this job looks awesome. The abilities are very colorful, and I just love the aesthetic. If the gameplay connects with me, I could easily see this becoming my new main. And finally, there's a new limited job coming, the Beastmaster. Limited jobs are very different than normal jobs. They aren't designed to be balanced, they are actually kind of overpowered, and because of that, they can't participate in current content. So instead, they act as a fun way to replay older content. Now, if they treat Beastmaster anything like they do Blue Mage, hopefully we get something like the Masked Carnival, you know, to challenge us with all the different beasts that we collect. And that brings us to number 9, graphics update. So the graphics are getting a massive update in Dawntrail. The texture resolutions are being significantly improved, so buildings, floors, armors, character, and enemy models are all going to be sharper and more detailed. Playing around with the benchmark and seeing the new armors and character models directly, the textures look amazing. The videos from FanFest really didn't do it any justice. I was actually in awe and couldn't stop staring at it. However, the textures aren't the only things getting updated. There's also the shaders. These are responsible for how the textures interact with light, darkness, and color. So, for example, in the benchmark when creating a character, with the new shaders, you can actually see a hint of the blue from the crystal being reflected on the clothing. Now, that is a very subtle example of the power of the new shaders. A not-so-subtle example would be the changes to metallic surfaces, which become much more shiny and reflective. The Aether Ray crystals are a great example of this. They look completely different with the new shaders. Water effects are also seeing some improvements. One example is when it's raining. The textures will now have a much better wet look. I really don't know how else to say it. The floor looks wetter. Another water improvement comes with waves. That is to say, there's actually waves now. I never noticed how still the waters were until seeing this, and it looks so good. The waves create a creepy and foreboding atmosphere. There's a storm over the ocean. The waves are churning and crashing into the side of the pier. It does a really good job at setting a mood. And speaking of moods, fog is also getting updated, giving it more volume and density. This was shown off to great effect with Old Charleon, which completely changed the atmosphere. Finally, the grass is getting a brand new engine, adding much more detail and volume. Not only that, the grass will now move when your characters move through it, something I've wished that the grass could do ever since I first started playing. I'm actually really looking forward to going back to old areas and seeing just how much they've changed with these new graphics. And that brings us to number 8, Endgame Zone. So one of the biggest things I thought was missing from Endwalker was an endgame zone. You know, like Eureka or the Bajan Front. A place where you can go and spend hours progressing your character and just getting lost in the grind. And apparently I wasn't alone with this, because in Dawntrail, they are bringing them back. Now, outside of that announcement, nothing else is known, but I'd imagine it will be tied to the new relic weapons with a compelling narrative. Number 7, Final Fantasy XI Alliance Raid. So Final Fantasy XI was my first MMO, and when they announced that the new Alliance Raid would be a crossover with it, that got me insanely hyped. So yeah, I am really looking forward to hearing familiar music and interacting with beloved NPCs, and of course, seeing how they incorporate the zones and enemies into the raids. Considering how they handled the other crossover raids and how much love and intention were put into them, I really am looking forward to this. Number 6. Gameplay. So the new job action trailer hasn't been released yet, but in the benchmark, we did see hints of new abilities. And this is another big reason to get hyped. Gaining more levels, learning new abilities, rotations becoming more fleshed out and interesting. It's kind of crazy just how much better feeling level 90 rotations feel compared to even level 80. Yoshida also had a bit of interesting commentary about gameplay during the PAX East 2024 presentation. There, he mentioned that they want to make changes to the gameplay because he feels that maybe it's been getting a bit too routine. Now, I'm not sure if that was a reference to job rotations or encounter design, but either way, that's gameplay, and I look forward to seeing what they have in store. Number 5, difficulty. Yoshida also said in an interview that they maybe made the game a bit too comfortable and stress-free, and they want to bring back some of the challenge. Now, personally, I am all for that, but I also know from past experiences that cranking up the difficulty can alienate a lot of players, so it is a delicate balancing act. Number 4, new story. So, Endwalker marked the conclusion of a 10-year-long, multi-expansion spanning narrative, and Dawntrail will be the start of a brand new one. You know, I wasn't here from day one. I began playing when 5.3 was already out, so I think it will be exciting to be there from the start as the first building blocks of a brand new narrative are being placed. And what makes me really excited is they already have shown off some really wild looking things in Dawntrail, and that was what they were comfortable with us knowing. So, just how hype are the big reveals going to be? Number 3, Cosmic Exploration. Did you enjoy the Ishgardian restoration, coming together with the whole server towards a common goal? Well, Cosmic Exploration takes that concept into outer space, a shared zone where everyone works together to explore the cosmos. So Yoshida teased that this won't be a straight run from start to finish, and will instead be changing the themes and changing the visuals as the content goes on. Now, what this exactly entails, we don't know, but Yoshida did make a point to say that this isn't a replacement for the Island Sanctuary, and that will still get updates based on player feedback. Number 2, new race. New races bring in a lot of hype, and for Dawntrail, female Hrothgar are on the way. Honestly, when this was first announced, I didn't pay much mind to it. That was until I saw them in action. They look great, the models are fantastic, the animations are crisp and smooth, and then the benchmark came out, and of course I had to play around with creating one, and that's when I started to really like them. Though, with that being said, there were very limited hair options, which raised some flags, but overall I was really impressed, and I actually went from not caring at all to seriously considering a race change. Number 1, new areas. New areas are one of the biggest reasons to get hyped for an expansion, especially for this one because of the graphics update. I kind of wonder if this is how players felt when Stormblood was announced and learned that the designers weren't going to be restrained by the PS3 anymore. The excitement of seeing what kind of areas they could now create. That's how I feel right now. I cannot wait to see how the updates influence the creation of the new zones. The artists are going to be able to fill them with even more details and objects, and with the new shaders, shadows, grass, and fog effects, these have the potential to be the most immersive and beautiful zones. And that goes the same for the new cities. From the tiny bit that we've seen in the preview events, they are looking really good. Though it's kinda hard to judge them from what we've been shown. They lacked NPCs and players running around, which is where a lot of the atmosphere comes from. Now, I will say that Solution 9 blew Tuliolal out of the water for me, but then again, I've always been more of a big city type of guy, and a futuristic metropolis that makes even the Ascian cities look primitive has my full attention. So I'll just throw in dungeons and raids in here as well. They are technically new areas. Now, we haven't seen much of them yet, but what they have shown looks awesome. I feel like the developers have been upping the ante for dungeons every single expansion. They just keep getting better and better. You know, more spectacle, more interesting boss encounters, environments that blow you away. I can't wait to see what they have up their sleeves in Dawntrail. So yeah, that's 10 reasons to be hyped for Dawntrail. So to be perfectly honest, when I first saw the trailer, I didn't feel the same amount of hype that I did for Endwalker. But Endwalker was the bookend of a story that had been cooking for years, and a trailer showing the end of the world is of course very exciting. But as more information has been released and we saw more of the zones and the story, my hype has gone through the roof. I cannot wait to get this in my hands. Anyways, that will be all for this one. Are you guys all hyped for Dawntrail? Let me know down in the comments below. And if you liked what you saw, please like and subscribe. Until next time, bye.